Okay, here we go. Yep. Yes, you read the title correctly. There have been some changes going on in my personal life, and oh my gosh, I think I'm finally ready to tell you guys. I just got so nervous. I'm not straight. And I'm gonna get into label details in a second. But first, I just wanna note that I've gotten a few comments over the last few years so you guys can tell that I seem more happy and confident. And it makes me ridiculously proud and grateful that people can see that because I feel it. And I've had just an overall life journey going on, and I've just become more and more of myself and more confident. And my sexuality is a huge part of that. So I feel like you guys have kind of like seen so much of the effects of me coming out, but you haven't actually heard anything about it. So that's what we're doing today. That's what it's all about. Today we're celebrating. I'm finally like completely letting people in. I have been hiding for so much of my YouTube channel in so many ways. Who remembers the voiceovers? Who remembers the only texts for years? And here I am today ready to come out. It's a good time. Okay, details. I know you want them. Okay, so for labels, I would say that I am concretely non-concrete. Labels that I use for myself often are bisexual, queer, and fluid. I have experienced attraction to multiple genders in my life, and that feels the most representative of what I have experienced, but we're gonna get into my story so you understand a little bit more as well, because there are some like details around that. And I really understand if this feels like super new news. I have always been very like feminine in my expression. You guys have seen me be married. Like, I get it. But I have been this way the entire time you've known me. I've been at various levels of accepting that for myself. But the me that you've come to know over years and years and years is still very much here. You've already seen the effects of me coming out. So I'm not a different person. I just have a facet you didn't know about before, and it's very important to me. And I do want to share that story. If I've learned anything in my time opening up on the internet, it's that anytime we open up and we are brave, we allow others to open up and be brave. And that's something that I'm very dedicated to. So I'm gonna really try to be brave and vulnerable here. It's gonna be hard, but we're gonna do it. So, here's the story. So to set the scene, I grew up in a really conservative environment and I was homeschooled. So my circle was pretty small and I didn't know anything about gay or queer people until middle school. In that span of time before I was 12 or 13 years old, I definitely had crushes on boys. My mom's kitchen table still has the initials of my first crush carved into it. Sorry, Mom. But another part of my experience, and I didn't have words for it, but I noticed starting around like 8 or 9 that I would feel differently towards some girls than others. My biggest memory of this time, because it kept happening, right? But my biggest memory was this New Year's Eve party. And there was this girl there from out of town. I only ever saw her at that party, but guys, I was mesmerized. I didn't know it then, but it was a full rom-com-y moment. Like, she walked in the door, my jaw dropped. I thought she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I wanted to be near her. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to tell her how beautiful she was. It was so distinct that that memory stayed in my mind until now. And that situation and ones like it would repeat in my head and I'd be like, what is that about? I don't get it. And that's just kind of how I live my life. I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't feel wrong. And I was just living my life. So then, age 12, I'm already getting nervous. I was on this homeschool field trip and there was this boy that had just learned the word homo and he would not stop saying it. And eventually I was just like, what in the heck is this dude talking about? So I turned to an adult and I was like, hi, what is a homo? What is this thing? The adult looked me in the eye and told me, it's when a man feels for a man the way he's supposed to feel for a woman. I think my face probably looked shocked and they said, yeah, that's correct. It's disgusting. It is the biggest sin that you can commit. You will absolutely go to hell if you do it. And I was aghast. My sweet little brain did not make the connection that girls could be homo. That was the only word I knew at the time. And I don't know. I heard a lot about really terrible sins that would send you to hell. And so I filed that one away as like a special guy problem and kept going with my life. Maybe a year later, I think I was 13 at this point, my friend and I were talking about the new meaning of the word gay. And she mentioned the term lesbian. And I was like, oh, well, that's a funny word. What's lesbian? And she was like, oh, it's when girls. And I was like, when girls what? And I was so obtuse. She kept like trying to hint and I wasn't getting the hint. So she finally had to like look me in the eyes and be like, Kayley, it's when girls like girls. And I was like, oh. And in my mind, to say that a light bulb went off would be an actual understatement. Like, I was like, that's what those feelings were. I get it now. Of course, I liked those girls. That's what liking somebody feels like. And that was the first half of the second, after I heard about girls liking girls. And in the second half of the sentence, I remembered what I'd been taught about gay and queer people. And I realized, oh, I'm one of them. Because of what I've been taught, I was like, I am a despicable human. I'm like a murderer. Me, a 13-year-old girl, just like, what do I do? And the only answer I had was, shh. Don't tell anybody ever. No one can know this. This needs to be buried as deep inside of you as it possibly can be. It needs to never see the light of day. You have to take this to your grave. And just generally, my way of silencing myself was to be like, okay, this goes in the background of your brain. You are never allowed to think about it. You are never allowed to talk about it. You are not allowed to experience it. This dies in your brain. We're continuing on through high school here, like, that's the background. That's happening in the back of my brain. In the foreground, I'm dealing with undiagnosed depression and anxiety, which I'd had even before my sexuality mystery revealed itself to me. And I knew that I thought and felt differently just in general about the world than the community that I was in at the time. And the hard part about that was that, like, it was conform or be ostracized. It was be this person or you will be kicked out. Very much felt like I couldn't be any of the things that I was, because any of the things that I was meant that I would lose everything. I would lose love, I would lose belonging, I would lose my community, I would lose my family. And I prayed, I pleaded with God, like, please take away all the ways that I'm different. This is too hard. I am doing everything I can and I still keep having these feelings and they won't go away and I'm not strong enough. Just please take it back to a point that I'm strong enough. And I'll do whatever I have to do. Just please take it away. And nothing changed. So I believed that God had given up on me and God didn't think that I was even worth trying to save. I wasn't even worth being loved. And I do hate that for past me. And I need to put a note in here in case anybody's feeling any of those things, that humans are innately valid and valuable, and any body or system or thing that tries to tell you differently is wrong. It's not true, and you don't have to listen to that. So that's how I felt. Just generally 15 years of my life, that was it. I kept going forward trying to be as straight as I possibly could. I had my high school crushes. In college, I dated. I had one little relationship. Actually tried not to be friends with girls in college because I was afraid that I would end up falling for one of my girlfriends, and that couldn't happen. Friends that were girls, obviously. Like, with terror in my soul, that couldn't happen. And when I look back, it's amazing how isolated I was. It's amazing how much of this was just in my own head. It was a struggle that nobody else knew about, which meant that I had nobody to help me. And it helps me have a little compassion for how hard that was. Against my plans, I did end up coming out to the guy that I would eventually marry. I had heard him repeat a lot of the things that we'd heard in church about gay and queer people. And I realized that I was way more scared of letting him propose to me and then marrying him and then him somehow finding out and then leaving me. I was way more scared of that than just telling him and letting me leave him now. So I blurted it out in the car one day and was like, it's fine, like I'm bisexual, which means that I can just ignore the girl side of things and only ever date boys. That's what we're gonna do. He was never fully supportive of my sexuality. I think the best thing I can say is he tolerated it and shrugged it off, and we were married less than a year later. And I think the next big point in my story happens in 2015. I've talked about that breakdown in several videos, and I've talked about different facets of it. That feeling that I had in me of being worthless and unlovable for years and years and years and years just destroyed me from the inside out. And trigger warning, here's a safe time to go to if you need it. I realized that I wasn't going to make it if something didn't change. Either the Kayley that invalidated and harmed and hated herself was gonna go, or my entire life was gonna go. And so I dragged myself into therapy, and it was the best thing I've ever done. And I started healing. I found Brene Brown's work on shame and vulnerability, and I realized that shame had been eating me alive for most of my life. That's an understatement. And I started slowly reclaiming myself. I was fighting back enough to have some life inside my empty shell. And I realized as part of that, if I was going to remove shame from my life, I had to confront the shame I had around my sexuality. And my way of doing that at the time was to let myself think about it for the first time and like really think about my label and really think about where I felt like I was. And I really truly felt like I was bisexual, still do. And I was like, okay, I'm a bisexual woman in a straight marriage, that's fine. I do feel like I need to tell other people that are close to me because it's the same thing. Like I just need to know they won't leave me because they know. And so I told 2, 3, maybe 4 people. And that was it. Like I kind of just like was in limbo there for a few years where I was like, okay, like I had worked through enough stuff to survive, but I wasn't thriving. And then we get to 2018, which is when I left my then husband. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering if that has anything to do with my sexuality. It really doesn't. That does happen for people and it's a totally valid story. It's just not mine. I left that marriage because I realized that I had been gaslit and manipulated and abused for years. And the only way that I was ever really going to thrive and live was if I got out of that situation. Because the years prior that I'd been struggling in, the situation that I got in 2015, it was not apart from the abuse that I'd been enduring. And so I knew I needed to get out. And it sounds resolute, but it was the first time I'd ever asserted myself, and it was difficult and it was clunky. And it was the best thing I did ever. Even more than therapy, I guess. Couldn't have happened without it, but you know. And it's taken me until now to be brave enough to call that relationship what it was. And it's important for me to do that today because I realized that staying silent and afraid meant that somebody else owned my story. And I'm no longer willing for that to be the case. For me, today's about owning my story, all of it. But more importantly, for me, today's about celebrating my story. And I think it's time to get to that part. More recent viewers probably know this one. I moved back to North Carolina to be around my family and friends that were out here, and the amount of healing that I found being in a loving and supportive environment was overwhelming. I had been so convinced of how small and weak and ineffective I was as a human. I felt like failure was etched into my bones. I felt like I couldn't actually understand reality without a translator. I felt like I didn't deserve control of my life because I would mess it up. And getting on my own and getting away from voices that told me that, oh, it melted away slowly, and it was not the easiest thing. But with siblings and friends and my therapist, I started dismantling all these terrible stories I'd been given about myself, like all this foreground stuff, right? And I started realizing that things that I thought I had to hide about myself and be embarrassed about for myself, like being silly and goofy, emotive, passionate, cautious, all these things that I thought that I had to hide that made me like undesirable, I started pulling out and like being able to enjoy for the first time. And realized that I didn't have to be embarrassed of myself, and I didn't have to be embarrassed to be any of those things. And as I started to unwind those stories, I started to find common threads. And the common threads taught me what gaslighting and bullying voices sound like. And with that knowledge, I started to realize that my entire dialogue about my sexuality was gaslighting and bullying. It was just all these internalized messages that I'd gotten around my sexuality from people growing up and from church and from mainstream media, from all this stuff, and I had internalized it, and I was using it to gaslight and bully myself. I was using it to hurt myself. And with the help of friends, siblings, therapists, I started to bring my sexuality into the forefront. And they were unanimous that I needed to figure out what this whole attraction to girls thing was, that I could not get into a long-term relationship with a guy unless I knew. And I was resistant. I was like, guys, no. That shame moat, it is too wide and too deep and too full of crocodiles for me to ever cross. Let's just put that on a shelf. I can't. It's too much. I'm too scared. But the thing about recognizing shame, gaslighting, and bullying is that it becomes a lot harder to shame, gaslight, and bully yourself into silence. And one day it was like, turn on a dime. I don't know how it happened to be just this distinct, but I just had one day where I was like, I am done with this. I am not treating myself like this anymore. I have worked way too hard to take people like this out of my life. I have worked way too hard to stop the gaslighting and bullying of myself, and I am not going to be responsible for it. And I am not going to let the voices of people that do not care about me belittle, shame, and berate me. So hell no. And my sweet little way of trying to dip my toe into the water was to get on dating apps and swipe around and chat and text, and that was all I was comfortable with for a while. It was very much like that scene in Rapunzel after she gets, quoting a Disney movie, after she gets out of the castle and she's like, I'm free, this is what grass feels like. And then she's like, I'm a despicable human, oh my God. And then, yeah, it was a lot of that. Because I really think that my internalized homophobia yelled at me the most during that time. It was brutal, to say the least. And then I ended up going on dates, and that's when it hit for me, okay? Because I thought that this whole time I had been chasing some kind of like unnecessary spicy high with girls. And what I found instead was that what I had been missing this whole time was connection. Just that like spark that just exists in like quiet and like still and even mundane moments. And the experience as a whole, just dating, it wasn't exotic or different or wild or lecherous or any of the things that I'd been taught to fear. It just kind of fit. And I just found that there was so much purity in truly emotionally connecting with somebody. And it teaches you strength and like the whole experience, just overall, like we're like no one part of it. It was just calm and wholesome and sweet. And it was all the things that I was trying to learn to be. And I was like, the stuff that I was taught to be afraid of and the stuff that I'm experiencing are two completely different things. And I get how being attracted to someone of the same gender could feel wrong or weird if it's not your sexuality, but it is mine. And it is not wild or debaucherous or crazy. It is calm, sweet, and nurturing. And that's when, for me, I was like, this is not what I thought it was. And this is okay. And I am okay. And the freedom from that, I don't know how to explain. I think I had always thought of my brain as this like big empty warehouse that I and life filled up with stuff. And I had this like wall, like layers on layers on layers on layers thick between who I had to be and who I was. And for a while, 20, almost 30 years, I thought that was fine. I could live in this teeny tiny little space. I didn't need to take up any more space. I could chop off whole parts of myself to be who other people needed me to be. Until the walls came down. And for the first time, I like stretched my arms. And I took like big steps. And I could run and I could jump and I could spin and dance. And I was like, what? This is what people can experience? What was I doing? Because I didn't need to be in a cell. I didn't need to be afraid. And finally, for the first time, I could inhabit all of me. Oh, and I finally got to realize what I wish I could have told 12-year-old me, that you are not a monster. You are not a murderer. You are a full human with a heart that is prismatic enough to love multiple genders, and that is beautiful. And for the first time in my life, after hating myself and tearing myself apart and wanting absolutely nothing to do with myself, I felt like I finally came home. That was like 2019, and so over the past 2-ish years, I have found more beauty and strength in myself than I knew that I had. Being brave in that area of my life has allowed me to be brave in so many areas, including the channel. It makes me so happy that you guys have gotten to see me blossom into me. It makes me so happy that I've been brave enough to try content that I was too afraid to make. It makes me so happy that being brave in that area gave me more here with you. And also, I met somebody. This summer we will have been dating for 2 years. She is everything I never knew to hope for. She teaches me every day what it looks like to be loved and seen and cared for. I am in awe of her integrity and her strength. I love her more than I know how to tell anybody. And I'm so grateful for the role that she plays in my life, and so grateful for all the healing that I've experienced with her by my side. And after that story, you can probably understand that I am not interested in putting myself in a very specific box. I have not dated enough to know for sure exactly where on a spectrum I am. I guess if we're only talking binary genders, we've got girls and guys, I'm probably about here. I'm more into girls than guys, theoretically open to both. I know this entire conversation has been very binary. For me, that's how I've experienced my sexuality. But that is not comprehensive of the full spectrum of gender that exists. And to all my non-binary, gender fluid, agender plus pals out there, I love you, and I am so supportive and respectful of your journey. But yeah, bisexual, queer, fluid, in me. And I'm sure you're wondering, like, does this actually change anything on the channel? We have made a whole video on this now, but is anything changing? I use my girlfriend as a guinea pig for hair experiments a lot, and I would like to share the results of those experiments. I will probably vlog from home now. Aside from that, no, I'm still a hair channel. I'm still obsessed with hair. I'm not gonna hide anything because why would I? But like, I'm still Kayley Melissa. I still do what I do. I still love what I love. This is just a new facet you just didn't know about before. I want to say thank you to you guys for spending this time with me and listening to my story. I want to say thank you for your support. And I want to say thank you for being here through all the highs and lows. And I'm so hopeful and excited for all the highs ahead. But that being said, that is it for today's video. Whether you're old or new or a casual lurker, thank you for spending time with me. I am still your friendly neighborhood hairstylist, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah. Bye. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go cry some more now. Take a tequila shot and cry and hug my girlfriend. Okay, bye.